What's goody, y'all? My name is Eli Blacede. We are here for Hood Translations of the Bible. Today we are going to start with Genesis 13. I know it's been 2 weeks since I posted a video. You know, the holidays and whatnot. I had to do some things. Per usual, if you linked up with the Hasbin Hotel or the Mighty Nine, casting directors, voicing directors, whatever you is, link with me. Like, have your people contact me. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to voice act. That's all I'm saying. So if you remember, well, for this chapter 13, we are going to talk about, that's not it. Let's make a choice, which I'm not really sure fully what that entails. But if you remember, the last chapter, chapter 12, was when Abram, is he Abraham yet? No, I think his name is still, yeah. So Abram had essentially tricked Pharaoh by calling Sarai, his wife, his sister, simply so he didn't be killed. And of course, God had plagued Pharaoh and whatnot because of that and everything. And Pharaoh pulled up to him. He was like, why would you cast such evil upon us? And then sent him away with like cattle and everything else. So regardless, Abram came up on the win. He came up on one. I ain't even mad at him. So now we are going to talk about let's make a choice. Once again, like I said, I don't know what that choice is. That is essentially the subheading for this chapter. So let's begin. Genesis chapter 13, verse 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and in gold. If you recall, that's everything that Pharaoh had just given him to leave Egypt. Verse 3. And he went on his journey from the south, even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. Verse 4. Unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. Verse 6. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. Verse 7. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt then in the land. Verse 8. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Verse 9. It is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, and I will go to thy right. And if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. Verse 10. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord. Even as the garden of the Lord. I said what I said. Like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zor. Verse 11. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Verse 12. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and he pitched his tent towards Sodom. Verse 13. Before we even hop into verse 13, I find that kind of funny because Sodom and Gomorrah, or Sodom, I believe specifically. Ooh, are we there yet? We actually not there yet. I was finna jump ahead. Let me actually go back to my talk. Verse 13. Back to my reading, Verse 13. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. Verse 14. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward, and eastward and westward. 15. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and thy seed forever. Verse 16. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk thou the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Verse 18. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Maim, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So sort of just a review of verses 16 through 18. That was essentially when God was breaking his covenant, started his covenant with Abram. He had told him everything you see, what he said in The Lion King, everything that the horizon touches is yours. Except that dark place over there. Don't go over there. Like, he said, everything you can see is yours. Go eastward, go northward, go southward, go westward. I'm going to give it to you. And as many of the stars that you can count is as many generations in which I'm going to give you. So that's how many people are going to be the God's people, essentially. Of course, they are Abram's descendants, but of course, they are my people because they're going to, of course, remember the name of the Lord. Let me see what it says. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth. Verse 16. And I will make thy seed as the dust in the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. So even though, like I said, he didn't specifically say right here, the Lord's people, we of course knows he had previously was already focused on these people. Of course, Abram is a descendant of Noah's past descendants. So Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, one of their sons is Noah, not sons, grandsons, whatever. One of their descendants is Noah, and it's such not. So of course we are focusing on God people because Noah was of course a descendant of Cain or Cain's children. I think Cain's children, which of course was a descendant of Adam and Eve. So once again, we are focused on these people within the Bible. Not really much else to discuss there. So I guess they was making a choice as into whether Lot should go east or west, but they couldn't live together no more. Like even as much as the land was abundant, it wasn't abundant enough for them and their households. And of course, households in this time period means their servants, their slaves, their maids women, their cattle, their flocks, all of that. So boom. Chapter 14. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, I don't know what it says, but anyhow, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Shedalamer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations. Verse 2, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shenab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. Verse 3, all these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the salt sea. Verse 4, 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. Verse 5, in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, and the kings they were with him, and smote the Rephims, and Ashtaroth, Karinam, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Shivakirathim. Baby, I don't know what this is saying, but stay with me. I'm pronouncing it best I can, breaking it down and whatnot. Verse 6, and the Horites in the Mount Seir unto Elparam, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came into Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekamites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazaratham. Now, one of the big reasons I don't too heavily focus on. Sorry, I thought it wasn't recording. I don't too heavily focus on the pronunciations is because I don't believe they hold. I don't personally, let me be exact, because I could search it and they might have bold significance, but I think they literally are just the name. So as much as a name is, of course, the name and give proper reverence to, I don't believe they come back up as significant in the Bible as in, I feel like he's just naming, of course, within this time period, not they're relevant, but I don't feel like they're relevant to where we got to remember them and so closely pronunciate them. But that's neither here nor there. Verse 8. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, the same as Zor. And they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim, with Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings with fire. Verse 10. And the vale of Sodom was full of Slimphits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. 11. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt into Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came unto that and there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Maim, the Amorite brother of Eshcol, and brother of Ammon, and these were confederate with Abram. Ooh, let's look that up. I'm pretty sure that just means to be against Abram, but we don't actually know, so let's figure out. Definition: Confederate. KJV. Oh yeah, I'm tired today. But we gonna get it by me. In the KJV Bible, Confederate means united in a league, covenant, or alliance, often translating Hebrew words like Berith, covenant, league, or Kusher, conspiracy, unlawful alliance, referring to nations or people forming pacts for mutual aid or sometimes plotting against a higher authority. So boom. But this says we're in confederate with Abram. Alright, so boom. That's what it's saying. It says, for he dwelt in the plain of Maim, the Amorite brother of Eshcol and the brother of Ammar, and these were confederate with Abram. So they're talking about the brothers. So he's of course in the plain of Maim, but of course he had, I'm not sure if they're like his servants or whatnot. They called him the brothers of Eshcol and the brother of Anar. So it's giving that those were people that were already there, but of course they had built a bond with Abraham. Not fully sure, but we'll keep Abram. Sorry, he's not Abraham yet. But we'll of course keep an eye on that. But anyhow. 14. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Verse 20. Not verse 20. Verse 15. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is one of the left hand of Damascus. Verse 16. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Verse 17. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him, and the valley of Shavah, which is with the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. Verse 19. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. Verse 20. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. 21. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take thy goods to thyself. 22. And Abram said to the kingdom of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth. Verse 23. That I will not take from a thread even the shoe latchet. That I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men And the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So I had forgotten before reading this. The subtitle of this chapter was Melchizedek meets Abram. And of course, as we just talked, Melchizedek was the priest of the Most High God, king of Salem, and he was priest of the Most High God. So he was the king of Salem as well as the priest of the Most High God. And so essentially this chapter was essentially talking about one, of course, which that confused me, which I'll have to read that later and we'll probably talk about it before I hop into chapter 15. But it kind of confused me because, of course, we are taught so heavily that Sodom and Gomorrah, which they did say, of course, this land was wicked before they had went there. But then Lot had went there so casually, like that's where he had moved and lived to. And of course, as much as the people of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and then I guess whoever was attacking them had just ended up taking Lot during that time period. And then, of course, when Abram had came and wiped them out, Sodom and Gomorrah came back, because as it says, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedlamar, and the kings that were with him in the valley of Shavar, which is the king's dale. And so that's, of course, him talking about going to meet Abram and whatnot. So I guess now they're back on cool terms, because then, as we're going to talk about later, which I don't know which chapter that is, but Lot basically literally goes back to Sodom. Like, he goes right back. So I don't feel like it could have been that bad, that wild of a place as much as they make it, if Lot going back there. Like, as much as, of course, Abram is the major focus of God, I guess, at this time, and he is the one in which God had made the covenant with. As you're going to see as later as well, even right now, Lot still has an extension of that covenant by being related to Abram, because not only did, of course, God allow Abram to come and slay all them people. Like, he really packed up his people, said, hey, we ride at dawn. What is you talking about? They got my brother. We ride at dawn. And then they did what they had to do. But like I said, we're of course going to get into later where there's another situation in which shows that covenant, that God's covenant with Abraham extended to all of his generations. And as much as we believe generations just basically only applies to like kids, grandkids, things like that. No, which I believe we had explained beforehand as well. Was it with the story of Noah? I don't even think it was the story of Noah. I think it was the story of Cain and his descendants. But regardless, we had explained as well, as much as he might make the covenant with one, a generation does not just directly mean your sons, your daughters, your granddaughters, grandsons, and then your greats, things like that. It is also extended to your brothers, their kids, your sisters, their kids, and all of that. Of course, the generation is building up sort of like an empire. It's a massive thing, as much as we now live in a society where most families and whatnot don't really know their generations. Or even though I know I'm gonna say that and a lot of people are gonna be like, no, we have a family reunion every year, this, that, and the third. As a collective whole, a majority of us are now antisocial. We do not have as big of a family bond as they used to back in the day, as they used to back in slavery times, as they used to back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Like, family was a big thing because, of course, family was the only dynamic you had, to be honest, because so wholeheartedly, if you were not white, basically, even, I won't fully say white, but if you were not rich and white, you don't have that ability and that focus and that foundation to basically expand outside of where your family dynamic already is, because of course the family is helping each other build and whatnot. So yeah, that's chapter 13 and 14. Nothing real crazy, but of course talking about, which not really even fully talking about, I've not found significant, which of course I guess that was just showing how Abram had became rich, because he did, once again, he finessed Pharaoh. So then that, of course, I guess, built the generations. And then, of course, God gave him the land and whatnot. And then, of course, he had split up the land with Lot, or at least he made Lot journey somewhere else. and then of course expanded his own land in that same instance. And this of course is talking about, this is of course setting up the covenant that God is giving Abram and whatnot. So yeah, that is chapter 13 and 14 of Genesis. Of course, when we come back, we're going to be doing chapter 15 and probably chapter 16 as well. Low key, we might do 17. Actually, yeah, because they real short. So we might do 16, 15, 16, and 17. But we'll figure that out when we get there. As always, love y'all, bless y'all. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, invite them to Bible study. Come divulge in the word with me. Of course, we're going to read this entire Bible. And then, of course, go into the Ethiopian version of the Bible. So, once again, peace, love, happiness. Catch y'all later. Bye-bye.